Okay, so this is the first time that we've made a React video, and the thought comes to mind, some people might think you're just making a React video just to get views, Well, the idea of getting views with your videos, yeah, you need views you need people to view your video in order to get your message out. So sure, you have to have the views and you need the views. But that isn't the foundation of our content and our information. Our information is all about the passion we have for this subject. Remember that we've lived through the RAM bubble of 2011 in Cuenca, Ecuador. We know how it affects all the participants and all the players. We're very in tune with all of the dynamics of this bubble making that goes on around the world and how it's precipitated over the internet. Having said that, let's get on with the video. Let me show you the cost of living in Panama is 50% lower. The first thing is that I'm going to show you the map. I've talked to Colombians and Ecuadorians that live in Panama. There are other Latins in Panama, and they all say the same thing, that Panama is the most, especially Panama City, but pretty much all around Panama, is the most expensive area in Latin America, according to them. Now, there are other runner-ups. Santiago, Chile. There are other expensive areas, but let me show you on this map. The green is the lowest prices, the yellow is in the middle, and then as it gets more to the red, orange, red, it's the most expensive. Right, so according to the cost of living map, Albuquerque is in a higher cost of living area in the US. Interestingly, she's not comparing Albuquerque to Panama City or any other large city. She's going to a small town. So interesting to note real quick is that these are the biggest cities, the prices. So it's leaving out all the other smaller cities. That means where there are no colored dots, like right here, all these areas in South America and all these areas in North America and Mexico, not as many in Europe, but they are there, and all of these areas in Australia. That means there's smaller towns there, and that also means they're all lower priced than the cities that are on this map. This is important and it's a key. Keep that in mind as we talk about this in this video. Hi everybody, it's Frank and Angie, and as you know, we've been abroad for 9 years. We've never paid more than $300 or $400 for 3 or 4 bedroom houses, furnished or unfurnished. That's one of the things we say in a lot of our videos. But what's really at the core of that is that we cut through all of the promotion and hype of living abroad. So we follow expat bubbles around the world. We also talk about the wheel that sets in motion, the cycle we call it, the expat cycle of these locations that are promoted. I understand that people travel, and I understand that people are good at vlogging and making videos, and I understand saying, look at this wonderful place that I'm at, and maybe you might like to live here. That's all good and great. We also do that too. But sometimes there are things that catch my eye for a reason, and it needs to be investigated. When I see a video about the cost of living in Panama is 50% lower for This American Expat, of course it caught my eye, and so let's talk about that in this video. Alright, so what's the other side of the story here? We see these videos a lot, and they are designed to entice gringos, North American expats, or any foreigner. The words 50% lower in Panama is what's used in the title. But then when you get in there and watch it, you find out, which when I saw that title, I immediately thought, okay, all right, I know what's going on here. And so they say 50% lower in Panama, but she's not in Panama, she's in a city, in a particular town in Panama. There's a huge difference. Because she's in a town of 22,000 population as opposed to the big city. And the person in the video is from a big city, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So this is a big clue, because we could talk about this frequently in our videos about people that are coming from large cities in North America and using that as a comparison, which there's more issues in the video. She's not really moving to Panama, she's moving to Boquete, a town of 22,000. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this video. The first thing that stands out to me is, you can go to any smaller towns, as I showed you on the cost of living index. There are oodles and oodles of smaller towns once you get outside of the big cities that are going to be a lot lower cost than those big cities. And this is also true in North America. The point is that you certainly don't have to go from Albuquerque to Boquete to find a lower cost of living. So this is clearly an attempt to funnel people to this particular area, which is a standard operating procedure of the Rams and the following groups. And this is how Gringo vicious cycles get set in motion, which, by the way, this is the second cycle. These cycles, they run full course, and then as they become exposed, they die down. And then this is a couple of years later, 2, 3, 4 years later, it's starting to pick up once again in Panama. So Panama has already been through that vicious cycle. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you should go see that video about that cycle. Boquete specifically went through a huge crime wave, and the gringos all took off, which is understandable. Now we see this happening once again. These bubbles create a situation where the place just becomes something else. The first thing I want to say, this is not a bash Panama video. Now I say this every time. We've been doing this for 9 years, and we like to present the other side of the story. We like to expose the Rams and their groups for the manipulation of the masses, that they create these bubbles intentionally for the purpose of profit, and how those that are unwitting, they don't know what's happening, are being used as pawns. And so the target of this kind of manipulation is always big city folk, because it's really easy to get the cost of living from big city America and manipulate that into saying that you're going to find a place that's a lower cost, while at the same time, you're really buying into these areas at 2 to 3 times more than what the local pricing structure really is, which creates just a outstanding profit for these Ram groups. I'm not against for-profit businesses. I'm just saying that there's another side of the story here, and there's a lot of fallout that happens, and a lot of people are hurt through these processes, and that's our motivation for showing you and making these videos. Pay attention to how this is done. This is being marketed to big city folks, and they're being funneled into a business that specifically targets Americans that don't speak Spanish, are coming from large cities, and are going to be led like sheep into these places at Gringo pricing structures. All right, so then comes the safety issue. So right off the bat, we're talking about how, now we just made a video about how gringos and foreigners will use terminology like feel safe. Safety has nothing to do with feeling, okay? So she's telling us that she's never been there before. She's using a Gringo service to move there. And then she's only been there 1 year, but she's using words like never and always when referring to crime, and feelings like, okay, I've been here 1 year, but I've never had a bad experience. Well, never has nothing to do with being there 1 year. I mean, it's a big difference. We were in Cuenca, Ecuador for 3 years, and we could have said the same thing. We feel safe. We've never had a bad experience. But then on the 4th year, we started getting prowlers every other night on the top of our roof. The reason why she hasn't experienced this yet, she's 2 miles out of a small town. So, the criminals just don't know you're there yet. Okay, so she's been there 1 year and she's using words like never and always, never feeling unsafe after being there 1 year, always felt comfortable. These are buzzwords that tells you that there's an agenda. I mean, why would somebody that's been there a year want you to feel safe for the rest of the time that you move there? You cannot predict what's going to happen tomorrow based on what's happened last year. So I'm helping you guys see through this stuff. I see through it the minute I see a title like this, okay? So here's another clue. It's already too expensive to get prescriptions in the little town. There's two things happening in small towns. If there are foreigners coming in, there's a serious shortage of commercialization. That what happens is, as the foreigners start trickle in, the prices start rising. This happened when we were in Unguilla. I saw it. You'll have in a small town, especially like Unguilla and Boquete, like only one store or two stores to go to. And once they start raising the prices, where do you go? She's already talking about how she has to travel to David to get lower prices. Okay, this is the beginning. This is just the beginning. Okay, and the prices are supposed to be lower because the locals there make less money. But here she is, already having to travel to David from Boquete. You know, this is not about the person in the video or the business that they're promoting. I'm sure they're fine people. They look like nice. We're reacting. Yeah. Talking about prices, here's another clue. She went to the dentist. She's talking about it was very reasonably priced compared to in the States. Now, guys, this is such a red flag to me. I mean, you got to see through these kinds of videos, because I've seen expats in Ecuador do this, where they'll go to the dentist and pay 4 times the local rate because it's still lower than in the States. I can get lower prices because we know what the local price is, and we also have methods of implementing of getting it, you know. So, but she's comparing it to the States and the beginning of the vicious cycle getting in motion. This is exactly what causes that. All right, more on cost. So she's talking about the casita. This is a clue. Casita means it's a really small place. When you listen to the terminology that's being used, it's like you can see the clear intent, giving impression that something is fabulously cheap, or or even free. Saying things like, "I don't pay for my utilities." Well, you're paying for them. I mean, they're just included in one price. You're just getting a price that includes all of your utilities. You're still paying for them. But why would somebody say, "I'm not paying for those here"? I guess maybe you mean that you're not personally having to go pay them one-on-one, but you are definitely paying for utilities. Already in the first half, we've heard about that it's already too expensive to get the prescriptions in town. But now we've also heard prices being compared to the United States all the time. No mention whatsoever of local pricing structure. I'm sure they have no clue. And so now we get to the meat and potatoes of the video, where the video tells us that their total cost of living is 2/3 lower than what was being paid in the States. Now this is really, really important, because this is part of that fabulous, greed, enticing, salivating kind of promotion that is designed to get people to just salivate at this stuff. Like using words like paradise, live like a king, and all that. So when we hear 2/3, right? Here's a clue. The video tells us that the entire cost of living is $1,500 to $2,000. Well, if it's 2/3 cheaper than in Albuquerque, doing some simple math tells us that she was spending anywhere between $4,500 and $6,000 a month to live in Albuquerque. So let's cut through that. Let me show you something. One bedroom in Albuquerque at 7-Eleven means that the cost of living would be around $2,100 to $2,844, somewhere between there. Okay, now you know a bigger place would be 2 bedrooms, and let's say $900 would be around $2,700 to $3,600. So even for a 2-bedroom, it would be $2,700 to $3,600. So she said it was $1,500 to $2,000. Let's say she has a 1-bedroom. That means her Albuquerque cost of living would be $2,100 to $2,800. But even on the high end, though, $2,700 to $3,600, it's not. You see where I'm going? It's not 2/3 of Albuquerque. I mean, cheaper. I mean, 2/3 cheaper. Even if let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. Even if we go with the higher figure of the 3,600, 2/3 cheaper would be $1,200. She would have to be living on $1,200 in Boquete, according to these figures. You know, she would have to be living on $1,200, but she's not. She's living on $1,500 to $2,000. So it's not 2/3 cheaper. Okay, and of course having choices, you know, talking about that there's choices here if you want to get involved with doing some volunteering or whatever, and then, but you know, if you also want to just not get involved with anything like that and want to live a quiet, simple life. Well, this idea that you have to go abroad to get a quiet, simple life, the only thing we ever lived was a quiet, simple life in the States. If you know how to do it and set out to do it, it can be done. You just have to get out of a big city like Albuquerque, you know. Once you're retired, you can have a quiet, simple life just about anywhere. I'm sure I could figure out how to have a quiet, simple life even in a big city. But, you know, maybe not quiet. She lives 2 miles out of an already smaller town. So, I mean, how many smaller towns in your own country or in North America could you go 2 miles out and have a quiet, simple life? You don't have to go to Panama to do that. I mean, you know, it's just, I'm just saying that if you want to go to Panama, but how are these really reasons to go to Panama? When you see a flurry of videos like this, I'm really sad to see a flurry of them now again for Panama, because I know what Panama and the locals have been through so far. And this is just more of the same. Remember, Panama only has around 3 million people for the whole country, not one city. The whole country is only 3 million people. So, you know, you're on the internet and you've got how many eyeballs? Half the population that's on the internet, you've got, you know, 2-3 billion eyeballs. You know, but just in the USA alone, you know, just 10% of the USA, or even how many millions of people retire every month right now, of baby boomers? You know, even if just 10% of those eyeballs, you know, I mean, just Google that and you'll figure that out. So it's a serious matter, and thanks for staying with me. Anyway, I hope that you're getting something out of this, and if you did, please push the like button, and have a wonderful day.